Okay, in today's video we're going to look at the two types of planning that you can ultimately do. A lot of you getting confused out there about death planning, bloodline planning as it were, thinking that potentially this is going to mitigate inheritance tax. It doesn't. There's another aspect of planning that we'll look at in a second that ultimately does that. So the two types are, we've got bloodline planning, i.e. death planning. When you pass away, your estate ultimately is distributed to your beneficiaries via your will. In most cases, we would always advocate, obviously, that the will then directs the assets into trust for your beneficiaries so that it's then fully protected up. So this is all about what you've created over your lifetime. If your estate is valued over the inheritance tax threshold when you pass away, in other words, you've not done any lifetime planning and your estate is above the inheritance tax threshold when you pass away, your estate will pay inheritance tax. It's the residue of your estate that ultimately falls into the trusts or ultimately passes to the beneficiaries depending on how your planning looks. Like I say, we will always advocate having your estate pass via your will into trusts to ensure that those assets that you've created over your lifetime are fully protected for your chosen beneficiaries via the trust, meaning they're not then going to be lost through future divorces, creditor claims, care fees or anything else. You're also never going to pay any more inheritance tax when the assets are passed into the trusts. The other option you've got, and the other planning that you can actually do, is what we call lifetime planning. Lifetime planning is planning that you do during your lifetime. So we've got an inheritance tax liability. We've recognized we've got an inheritance tax liability currently. Two options you've got. One is you can gift the assets via a gift trust, fully protected, to your beneficiaries now during your lifetime. Okay, or the other option is, which we wouldn't really recommend, is that you give it to them. Okay, if you give them the assets, as it were, after 7 years, as long as you've had no benefit from the gifts at all, no benefit, so you can't just give your main residence, for instance, and continue to live in it, that's a gift with reservation of benefit. But as long as you've had no benefit from the gift, i.e. I've got some cash, I've given the cash away, it's gone, I've never had any benefit from it, after 7 years, that would be fully outside of your estate for inheritance tax purposes, reducing down the size of your estate by whatever the value of that gift was. We will always advocate, obviously, putting assets into a gift trust and gifting them, again, because we can then make you a trustee of the gift trust. You'll never be a beneficiary of your own gift trust because you can't be, but we can make you a trustee, which means you can then control the funds. So we're gifting the funds out, giving benefit to a son or a daughter, whoever it is now, as it were, for that particular asset. After 7 years, it's fully outside of the estate. This is how we actually reduce down inheritance tax. Like I say, the death planning side of it isn't going to reduce your inheritance tax liability on death. It's too late at that point to reduce down your inheritance tax liability. You need to think about reducing inheritance tax liabilities during your lifetime. So that's why we do lifetime planning during your lifetime, and we set up the death planning, obviously, to hold the estate, to ensure that the estate is then fully protected for your chosen beneficiaries after you've actually passed away. Hope you found that interesting. If you need anything from me, obviously, email me on the just above, and I look forward to speaking to you on the next one.